everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Ed Talk episode 2, where we today are going to talk about teacher education, which is one of the rising topic of today's world. We have three speakers here today. We have Dr. Fumiko Kono. She is originally from Japan, and she is working at the moment as a teacher training specialist and senior digital learning designer at the Asia Pacific University of Technology and Education in Kuala Lumpur. Welcome, Dr. Kono, to the session. We then have Cristina Nicolau. She is working as a teacher trainer and teacher educator around the world in different centers and places around the world. She's originally from France. And then we have Munir Tharwani, and he is originally from Pakistan, and he is working as specialist teaching and learning at the Network of Quality Teaching and Learning at Al Khan University. I welcome all three of our speakers today. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to speak with our participants here, and for joining us. Sorry. Okay, so
Our pleasure.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we will be talking about the importance of teacher education, the innovative approaches in the session. We'll also be talking about the essential skills that are needed by the modern educators for today, in today's world, and the professional development and lifelong learning. And we'll also be addressing some challenges in the teacher education today. Before we dive deeper into this, I would like you all to tell us a little bit about what motivated you guys to be teacher educators in the first place. So starting with Dr. Fumiko.
What motivates me as a teacher educator? That's the question, right? Okay, so I'm familiar with the Japanese higher education setting. I have been working for preparing future faculty program at Japanese university for nearly 7 years. Then after that, I shift my life to Malaysia. So now I'm working in Malaysia. What motivates me is when I was a student, the first day of the class, first year, I don't like teaching. I like research. I'm a researcher. That is why I got a position at a university. But to do my favorite research activities, she said she need to teach. That is why we are teaching. So that time I noticed, oh, in Japan, university teachers, they don't have any license, they don't have any practice, they don't have lesson planning learning. Then suddenly one day they become the the professor or lecturer at the highest learning institution. That is quite tough for them. No training, but suddenly become teacher. So that hard statement, I'm not a teacher, I'm a researcher, but need to teach. That one motivate me to design and provide the opportunity for them to learn. Yeah, that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you. What about you, Munir?
Thank you, first of all, Hareem, for inviting me here, and thank you for this opportunity. I think my realization for becoming a teacher first, before even a teacher educator, was when I started doing my chartered accountancy back in 2012. And I realized that this is something that was not giving me that satisfaction. And my voluntary work at the same time as a teacher to students of secondary level was giving me more happiness and enjoyment because I could connect, I could bring about a change in people's lives. So, that internal happiness gave me that opportunity to shift my career path. And eventually, I moved towards becoming a teacher. I taught as a teacher for a couple of years and gradually have been moving along that pathway. And today I am working with the Aga Khan University as a specialist, whereby I work with faculty members, just like Dr. Fumiko said that a lot of faculty members at the higher education institutes, they take themselves as researchers and less as teachers. So, it's important to help them actualize their theoretical perspectives and theoretical knowledge into action that can be taken by their learners into their own professions. So, yeah, so that's how I've come into this field.
Great. Thank you so much. What about you, Christina?
I started as a teacher. I mean, that's my second career. Initially, I used to work in London, so I used to work in recruitment and hunting. And then when I arrived, I moved to the Middle East. And when I arrived there, I realized that my skills were not transferable. So I had to find another niche, another market. And then I started as a teacher. I started as a actually young learner teacher. I did Saturday classes, summer camp, everything. Then started as a speaking lessons for adults. And then little by little, I discovered that I needed some kind of training, did my CELTA, and then taught literally every single possible class from pre-starter all the way to proficiency. I taught different groups. I taught adults, kids, I taught university students. And then when finally you're asking for more, you thrive for more, you have a thirst for knowledge, which I think, goes into Munir and Fumiko talking about being researchers. It is something very important as a teacher educator, this thirst for knowledge, knowing your own. And from then on, it hasn't stopped. I mean, I've been working with different NGOs, working with public school systems, private schools, trying to implement programs on a national level, on a local level. And this is how I became a teacher educator, seeing the fact that after all these years, I still had gaps in my knowledge, and thinking that now that I know a little bit more about the gaps in my knowledge, I could maybe try to help others find those gaps in their knowledge. And this is how I moved from being a teacher that would help others to becoming more of a teacher educator.
Thank you so much for sharing this, and all of this is very motivational. I should say that it would, I hope, motivate all listeners and our audience today and the participants today to seek teacher education and to be trained as teachers, and maybe one day be training other teachers to work in today's contemporary world. So, talking about today's world, what do you think is the evolving role of teachers in the 21st century?
Personally, I mean, guys, please tell me if you agree. Personally, I think there's a bit of an issue with that. At the moment, we do understand that the need to pass on knowledge. Okay. Well, actually, that's how we used to see. We used to pass on knowledge. Now we realize that we're not there to pass on knowledge. They are not empty vessels that we need to pour the knowledge into. On the contrary, we are here as facilitator. Hence the rise of different techniques such as dogme or TBL, where let's say the language or the language emerges instead of being pre-prepared and pre-decided. It's much more student-centered and much more learner oriented. So we have become facilitators in the 21st century. The problem is that we have also become, I mean, at least some students expect us to also become life skills educator. There's a very big emphasis nowadays on life skills. And there's a bit of an issue here. Are we an educator, as in this is our knowledge, this is our subject, this is what we're aiming for? Or are we supposed to be this all round, holistic guru nearly that teaches not only our subject, which is language, at least for me, but also how to deal with. And there's a bit of an issue here, I find, especially, I mean, I've been teaching for 25 years. I've seen this recently in the last, let's say 5-8 years. They do expect more, much more of us. And it's not just the learners. We're talking about all the stakeholders. We're talking about the director of studies. We're talking about the parents. We're talking about the companies that are employing us, or the companies that are paying for those classes. I don't know. Is that something that you've realized, you've noticed, Munir and Fumiko, also in your areas?
I think I'll completely agree with you, and we've seen a very huge shift in these past couple of years, specifically post-COVID. If we talk about how things have changed and how the economy has moved more towards knowledge-based economy rather than labor-based or labor-driven economies, where we're not just required to have students who know how to work in industries or in the market, but are also people who can make decisions, who are critical thinkers, who are creative, who are innovative, and they're not just following the lead of their bosses or the people already present in the market, right? So it's more that I would say that the teacher's role has become tougher and tougher with every year passing, because they're not just now those people who are there to share their knowledge with their learners, but also help create an environment whereby learners can self-learn, because knowledge is out there now. You don't need to provide that knowledge anymore to the learner. Of course, you need to guide them, you need to facilitate them, but the major focus now is on how to help the learners navigate through that knowledge and use that knowledge in their daily lives. So even if I know how to do 2 + 2 today, or I know what language to speak, if I don't know its application in real life, and if I, as a teacher, am unable to help my learner put that knowledge into use or in application in the real life, then as a teacher, I would say that at least I have failed. So that's my opinion. I don't know.
And how do you feel about this, Dr. Kono?
Yes, I strongly agree with Cristina and Munir. Yeah, the keyword was facilitator and then navigator. Yeah, I also think that is very important. As an instructional designer, we always say, okay, they can learn, in the internet, generative AI. There's so many things that, if you think learning is only getting the information, it's not teacher's job anymore.
Right.
Our job is setting the goal, learning outcome. What kind of, the outcome the learner need to perform, we can set it. Then how to find out our learner was reach that goal. Is it,
Right.
the test or any performance assignment or anything? Then how to guide them to reach there. So giving feedback to successfully reach that goal. And then if it's not enough, how to give more effective and efficient strategy or tips or learning opportunity for them, and then successfully all together get that outcome. That is, the guide to that particular point. We can navigate and facilitate to achieve that. That is my understanding.
So with so much riding on teachers now, and Munir just went out to say that he would feel he's failed as a teacher, he's not able to address all of these things. How do you think quality teacher education impacts the student outcomes, and how does it impact the overall educational quality that we have today? Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. I was just about to say that since I mentioned this, that I would have failed as a teacher, I was just reflecting on my time as a teacher educator earlier on, a couple of years back, when I was teaching at 2 separate institutes as an undergrad teacher educator. And what I realized was that the curriculum that we're often using, at least if I talk about Pakistani context, the curriculum that we're using, I would call it as a saber-tooth curriculum, because it's quite outdated. It's more of a knowledge driven curriculum rather than an outcomes-based curriculum, whereby we talk about or focus on the competencies that we want our teachers to have by the end of that teacher education or teacher training that we're providing. And when I say teacher education or teacher training, it's not just the in-service or the pre-service, it's both. Because teacher training is an ongoing, or teacher education is an ongoing process. Unfortunately, unlike some other fields where perhaps once you've done a bachelor's or a master's or even at times PhD, you believe that, okay, your learning might have stopped, or the things that you can bring into that profession has been limited. But in case of teacher education, this may not be the case, because it's a lifelong learning journey. And when we say that we are preparing students for life and not just for a particular profession, then that's where our role becomes more challenging, because we need to adapt. We need to be as dynamic as the world is becoming. So that's where
And because you have also, I believe earlier when we spoke, you were somewhere in Africa, I suppose, and you were, and how do you think the scenario there is different from the scenario here in Pakistan?
So again, the case over there is similar to Pakistan, given that that's also a developing country. So Nairobi, Tanzania, Uganda, all three countries where the Aga Khan University works, they're also developing countries. However, one thing that is good over there is that their regulatory bodies are quite strong as compared to Pakistan. And that is where their regulatory body comes into play, and then they force or they enforce a lot of there are things in place that help the teachers or the teacher educators, or even at the university level, the university professors, to keep on developing themselves through continuous professional development. And that's where my department comes into play, whereby we provide them with international certification. And we've almost a decade back, we were able to achieve this partnership with Instructional Skills Workshop Network, which is based in Canada. And then there are a couple of Canadian and US-based universities whom we have partnered with to help rethink the curriculum and move towards more of a competency-based education rather than just knowledge-based education, whereby only knowledge is the focus.
And so Dr. Kono earlier mentioned that what motivated her to become a teacher educator was also this lack of, you can say, teacher education there in the first place. And ever since you became a teacher education, and now, what do you see any change happening?
Okay, if I speak about Japanese circumstances, actually we learn from like United States, Canada, Australia, and then England. They have a diploma or certificate, that kind of like tangible, relatively tangible learning opportunity for working teachers. But in Japan, it's not common at all. So the Ministry of Education, they changed the law for higher education institutions, make it compulsory to take some professional development opportunity, all the higher education. So it's kind of top-down kind of regulation has happened. Then what actually have done is just setting seminar or workshop and then listening to some researchers talk about higher education or student support or something like that. So it's actually, there is some initiative, but it was really, really suspicious whether it's really improve the quality of teaching and learning. And then sadly, I can say a lot of people doesn't like professional development because of that top-down. You need to attend this, and oh, it's so boring. It takes 2-3 hours from my working time, and then it doesn't, make myself, changed or learn. So together with that, we focusing more for graduate student. So some universities setting up the module subject to learn what is higher education, what is teaching and learning, what is instructional design. So start when they are more flexible and open to that kind of opportunity. Let them learn at one of the module in the graduate school course. Then when they got the job, the opportunity, the position at the higher education, maybe they can use that knowledge and then make better curriculum, make better teaching and learning activities.
Right.
That one is actually what's happening in Japan right now.
So Cristina, because you've worked globally, how do you think this is different in different parts of the world? Do you think there are more countries where teacher education is a priority, or do you think there are more countries where teacher education is just something that people may or may not do, and it's a choice and really taken choice?
The issue really is that all over the world, there is a misconception. And the misconception is that if you know the subject, you know how to teach it. And there is a huge difference. There are two different factors here. There is subject knowledge and teaching knowledge. And these are not the same. And unfortunately, people do tend to amalgamate these two, thinking that they are exactly the same. If you know, I mean, a simple example, I learned how to drive not long ago, let's say maybe 10 years ago. I do not drive, do not worry. I am not let loose on the streets because God forbid. But I got my driving license, and my driving instructor was a very good driver, but had no clue on how to instruct me. He did not know. That is the issue. And a lot of people are under the misconception that if you know a subject, therefore you know how to teach it. So we do have over the world, I mean, I work in the Middle East, and unfortunately, I do go into lots of public schools whereby the person knows a lot about math, physics, English, French, whatever it is. They have a master's in linguistics, yet no knowledge, no proper pedagogical knowledge of how to actually teach. All over the world, I'm talking about Europe, I'm talking about, let's say, the Middle East, I'm talking about, not all over the world. So I'll talk about Europe, the Middle East, and North America. There are diplomas. You cannot be in the classroom, at least if you are a public school teacher, if you do not have the regulated, governmentally issued diploma. However, how good are these diplomas is an issue, is a problem. Plus, Dr. Kono, you were discussing, these internationally, recognized diplomas such as the CELTA or DIP-TESOL or CERT-TESOL, and even these ones, which I am involved with on a regular basis because I am a CELTA trainer. Even these ones need to be reviewed. So there is an issue of, as Munir was talking was discussing, the issue is that the competencies that we are teaching, or at least the knowledge that we are putting, we're trying to transmit onto these new teachers, unfortunately, we do not put the emphasis enough on the practice, as in you're not there as a teacher educator, you're not there for your own sake. You're not there for your own pride. You're not there for your own greed. You are there to help the learners. And we need to shift teacher education towards more learner outcomes, as Munir was discussing, and Dr. Kono also, towards learner outcomes. So for example, the language certificates is, at the end of the day, can the learners use the language in a real life communicative manner?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have just pinned this to the dot. So now that Munir, for example, earlier, I keep referring back to him as well. So he talked about how things have changed, especially after COVID, and there's this so much talk about integrating technology. So how important is it to integrate technology in teacher education programs? And yeah.
I mean, the main market nowadays is online classes, whether we are talking about language, whether we're talking about different subject matters, it's online classes. So the necessity for a teacher to know how to navigate Zoom it's prevalent nowadays. You have to know. You cannot be a teacher and not know how to use either Zoom, Google Classroom, or one of the plethora of platforms, online teaching platforms.
And
So
yet, so much resistance towards integrating technology or learning online. And there's so many teachers who are like, okay, I cannot do an online course.
Teachers or teacher trainers, just not long ago I was on a webinar discussing this, and loads of people saying, no, that's why I do not like face-to-face, because I do not like online, is because you're missing out the supposedly you're missing out the body language relationship between the tutor and the trainees, or between the teachers and the students. Now I am half Italian. My grandmothers were Italian, so I speak with my hands, and I'm lively, and yeah, body language is not an issue with me, even online. So there is a resistance, but as Munir was discussing, post-COVID, actually during COVID, we did not have an option. I mean, from one day to another, it was like, oh, by the way, all these courses you're on, Cristina, by the way, you're still on them, but online. You have to adapt. The market is such that now it's online. Are you willing to survive in this economy? Then you gotta go online. Is it optimal for learners? That is a discussion that would be very, I am very interested in Munir and Dr. Kono, and even you, Hareem, because you are also a teacher educator. I've worked with you on several courses, on what your input is. I mean, I do know that when I give input online and my learners do reach the right level, my trainees do reach the right level, would they be better face-to-face? I don't think the content would change, but it is different. We're not meant maybe to be online. However, we have to be online. What do you think, Hareem? I'm interested in your opinion on this.
I cannot agree with you more on this, and despite that, yes, there's so much resistance, and that also motivates me, what you just said, that I would want to know more about what people think, and we will definitely hold another session, a whole session on technology in classroom and how people are adapting to this technology, because yes, it's imperative, you have to use it, but why is there this resistance, and what we can do about it? Because I don't see that the online teaching is any less than face-to-face. Yes, there are pros and cons to technology and online classes, but the same goes for face-to-face learning. But if we continue to talk about the innovative approaches in teacher training, so one is integrating technology, and one is the experiential learning through, you can say, internships or teaching practicums. We have all of these TESOL courses and CELTA courses going on. And they all incorporate teacher training. How effective do you think, Munir, for example, what do you think? How effective do you think these teaching practicums are? And do you think it's a good idea to go for internships before you actually start being a teacher trainer? Sorry, a teacher.
Yeah. I think I'm also trying to figure this out at this point in time currently, if I may say so, because as you mentioned, and as Christine also mentioned, there are pros and cons of both, right? And if I talk about pre-COVID, people used to have this attitude that because it's face to face, we have to travel, we have to do this. That's why we're not doing XYZ course. So at that point in time, they had this excuse that, okay, the reason for not doing a particular course is because they have to travel and they have to get stuck in the traffic and so on and so forth. And now that we have online courses, so we have this thing that, okay, it's not same as face to face. So, we will always have excuses. Human beings are made to make excuses, I believe.
Right.
But Having said that, I myself went through the online CELTA course just 1 year back, and Harim was my teacher. So I don't know if I should say the truth or not. But jokes apart,
No,
I
go ahead, speak the truth.
no. I think online teaching is more demanding as compared to the face-to-face teaching. And the reason is that you have less classroom management, I would say, or less control over your learners as compared to in a face-to-face classroom, given that the students are physically present. You don't know what my screen is showing right now to me while I'm teaching you, for instance. So, in that way, the control is limited, but that does not mean that teaching online is not effective. As Christina earlier mentioned, that if the learning outcome is that the teacher or the student should be able to teach, for instance, let's say, by the end of that course, and if they're able to do that, then perhaps your learning outcome is being met. So that's perfectly fine. It's all about engagement, and that's where Dr. Fumiko comes in, I believe, where she talks about developing instructional strategies in such a way that they are engaging enough to achieve your learning outcome, as well as ensure that the learner is engaged throughout.
Yeah.
So just to give you an example, if I am teaching online and if I am doing an amazing job with engagement of my learners, but I'm unable to fulfill the learning outcomes, then my teaching is of no use. And at the same time, if
Yeah,
yeah,
so circling back to the point where so you mentioned you've done CELTA, so you probably are and you've done it recently, so you're probably the best
online,
person
yeah.
to say
Mm.
how useful are these teaching practices, because you see we have such a limited time on a course, on a teacher training course, be it CELTA or TESOL, and there is a limited number of teaching practices there. So how fruitful do you believe these teaching practices are? And yeah.
I think they're very fruitful given the context, because again, at the end of the day, if I am to look at the future, I believe that online teaching, learning, and online classrooms is going to take up at least more percentage going forward, because not everyone is going to be there in physical classrooms. So that's a very go-to skill that a teacher needs to have. And perhaps that's where in a course like CELTA, where you have authentic students in your classroom, you get that opportunity and you get to experience that, okay, you will have some students who are not going to participate. How do you overcome that? Or you will have students who are going to participate but will have internet related issues, or who will not be good with technology. How do you overcome that? So that gives you that authentic experience, which perhaps you will not get in a face-to-face class.
And so, Dr. Fumiko, what do you think, um, furthering this point, that if we introduce internships and people who go for internships, because when you're doing a course, a TESOL course, then you have somebody who's giving you feedback on each and every teaching practice. But then when you're going for an internship, that's not usually the case throughout the internship. So you may get some lessons observed and some feedback here or there. So how do you think useful are internships when it comes to teacher education?
Okay, so my previous programs, I always include some mock teaching, micro teaching,
Right.
because a whole one session, the entire session cannot be covered because of the time schedule. But maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes is actually enough to demonstrate their teaching. And the feedback session is quite effective. It's from peer, and sometimes we invite actual university student, and they give them very constructive feedback. And then also we go into the very experienced professors lecture. We go and sit in and then listen, and after that having discussion with the professors. Then some young teachers, they think if they are really research-oriented faculty, they want to make some like packaged module within like first 1 or 2 years. Then after that, want to continue this for the lifetime. So they ask the very experienced professors, how long does it take to reach this level? How long is it? One semester, 2 semester, or more than that? Then the professor say, no, every year need to change because your students are different. Their background is different. Their technology around them is different. So
Right.
there's nothing, okay, package, okay, you can
Yeah.
use this for next like 10 years, 20 years. Not gonna happen that you need to change and revise and update. Then it's kind of eye-opening experience for the young researchers. Oh my God, teaching is like that. And then also, if we got feedback from the peer and then student, usually if we got the student evaluation or student survey, the most of the thing they got is like negative feedback, you know. But in the mock teaching and micro teaching, the student can say something positive. I love
Right.
your way of talking. Oh, I love your joke. I love your ice-breaking session. So the teacher can get that, oh, this is my signature thing. This is my,
Yeah.
characteristic as a teacher. So that one actually got so much big influence for their confidence and the motivation to open to the feedback.
And so on that point, how important do you think is this peer mentoring among teachers and collaborative learning among teachers when they're, getting trained, or even for trained teachers for their continued learning?
I think it's must, should have that opportunity in an early career stage, open up your the teaching initiative and then getting
Yeah.
feedback. Yeah.
So this is to everybody. So what do you think are basically the essential skills for modern educators nowadays? We'll open a poll for this as well. So what are your thoughts on this?
Still, I can talk.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, of course that kind of like attitude and an open mind for getting feedback from your peers and then student, and also basic instructional design um, skill, which Cristina mentioned before. Knowing subject and then being able to teach that subject is different, but university faculty, they are teaching their favorite subject. They become that position, the professor, because they love it. They don't have any difficulty to, master it and learn it and love it. So sometimes they don't know why you don't understand this. This is so much fun, so much easier. So if teacher doesn't know,
Because
they
they
love it.
yeah.
They don't have any difficulty to much easier. So if
Sorry.
sorry, yeah, sorry. Now
Sorry.
yeah, it's okay. So then that kind of like the shifting their mind, the learning-centered perspective. Yes.
And what do you guys think, Munir, Cristina?
So I think there's no one way to go about it. My go-to answer to this would be that a teacher needs to know how to be adaptive and adapt. That's the key skill, because then that automatically covers being culturally responsive. That automatically covers being able to use technology in the classroom or manage the classroom and things like that. So if a teacher knows how to be adaptive, I think then he or she can easily navigate through their classrooms and teaching and learn, of course, learn throughout their lives and
And
make
our
sure they are doing.
participants are mostly of the view that technology integration is one of the most important skill, and we have talked a lot about it. But how important do you think fostering critical thinking and problem solving is, Cristina?
I mean, it's the 5 Cs, right? 5 Cs or 21st century skills that they've been ramming down our necks and throats for the last couple of decades. It's all, every time you write a lesson plan for an NGO, it's always, please highlight which of the 5 Cs, so the 5 competencies, or the one of the 21st century skills that and it's like I mean, critical thinking is necessary. Problem solving skills is necessary. I mean, you do need to foster this, but at the same time, this is something that Munir was discussing earlier on, learner autonomy. After a little while, the issue is that, I mean, as I mentioned, I do have 25 years of experience, and I have noticed that we have gone from an area where we used to be accused of spoon feeding our students to an area, to a time now where we are kind of pre-chewing the knowledge to our students. It's become to the point where it's like, okay, we have to like be sure that they can understand, and we have to foster critical thinking, and we have to also concentrate on what it is that we're trying to teach. And we are trying to teach the subject. Critical thinking is something that is needs to be integrated into the program, but this is not our area of expertise. This is not our area. This is not what we're trying to teach. If we are teaching of physics or English or math or whatever it is. So we need to be careful. We integrate, but we don't bow down to it all the time. Sorry, Harry.
So you were talking about the 5 Cs. So how important do you think it is for a teacher, especially because you've taught in so many different cultures? So how important do you think it is for the teacher to be culturally responsive, and how important it is for her or him to promote inclusivity?
Inclusivity is a buzzword that only works in certain cultures. I mean, where I work at the moment in the Middle East, we don't really discuss this. This is not something that, inclusivity is not something, the only type of inclusivity that is starting to shine through, which I think is a great thing, is the differently abled people, in the sense that people with dyslexia, people with the ADHD, ADD need some kind of accommodation. They don't need to be put on different programs, but there need to be we need to be more inclusive in our teaching, to be aware that certain students require certain accommodation. And we're not talking about, catering to every whims. We're not talking about, I don't know, students that want to be furries, and we need to discuss, to refer to them as, whatever animal they refer to. No, we're talking about real different abilities, and this is something that has been there for the last, decade. Teacher training courses, even when we deliver teaching training courses, we have to be made aware of this prior, so that we can integrate. And I think this is a type of inclusivity that needs to shine through more and more, because I have no qualm saying it. I was dyslexic when I was young. The difference between an M and an N, I had no clue. A P and a D, please don't ask me. I have remnants. I still don't know my left and my right. But then again, my husband will say that's normal. But it is what it is. And I was very blessed to have a mother that recognized it, put me, where I needed to be. Therapy for a couple of years to know how the differences, and that's it. Now I read, I don't know how many books per month, but it is important. Differently abled students are here, and they're not meant to be made to feel different, in the sense that lesser. We are different, but we're not lesser. And this is something that needs to be within our education. I'd be very interested to know how it goes in Pakistan or in Kuala Lumpur. Is there this kind of inclusivity that's starting to sift through education, and especially into teaching education?
So for Pakistan, the government has specifically indicated a course on inclusive education within the undergraduate program that is mandatory for all student teachers to go through. And the curriculum outline for that is quite interesting, I would say, given that it touches upon not just differently abled students, physically differently abled students, but it also talks about different genders and so on and so forth, given that in a Pakistani context, it's a male-dominant society and females are often neglected with regards to education and even in some cases, many other basic rights of life. So in such a context, I believe that this sort of a course is very important, whereby that awareness for student teachers is created at least, and their mindsets are perhaps at least altered to an extent, or they're given that agency to speak up their minds. Because now we see that this has become a buzzword, as you yourself said, Cristina. However, recently we are working with the East African countries from AKU's platform, excuse me, where the government is pushing for the curriculum to be revamped in all the universities based on the SDGs. And one of the SDGs is inclusive education and inclusivity. So what they're trying to do is that they want to see explicitly in the curriculum that how is a particular course, not just a program, but a course even, how does even a medical level course or a nursing course have inclusive education embedded within it? So that's an interesting thing that we are currently working on, and I
Dr.
too
Fumiko,
am
do you
learning a lot of that.
thank you, Munir. We're a bit short of time. So, Dr. Fumiko, what kind of differences have you seen in this when we talk about Japan and in Malaysia? Do you see that teachers are well educated to hold inclusive classrooms, and are they culturally aware of how things go by?
Okay, so Japan is such a monolingual, monoculture, monoracial country. I was not really aware of it when I was in Japan, but when I lived my life here, it's totally different. For example, APU, Asia Pacific University, which I'm currently working, we have one student from 130 different countries. So we can have the quite a lot of different quite different groups compared to Japan. So the newly hired teacher always asking us how to accommodate that kind of difference, and how. So definitely they need to face the differences and inclusively of their teaching and learning. But at the teacher education opportunity, we introduced the SDGs in our curriculum and the universal design of learning, personalized learning. We touch that concept, but how it's effective or how we can take care of it in a long-term view is I need to review it, and then I need to keep updating.
I mean, this
Right.
is something that would be so interesting if we could have inclusivity, included in all, in all parts of the world when it comes to teacher education and teaching. I mean, like I mentioned, in certain areas of the world, this is, certain aspects of inclusivities are not discussed. I mean, we have a lot here of for example, social, emotional learning, and we're trying to be very inclusive, especially when Munir has mentioned when it comes to gender. But this needs to really be, I think this is something that really I feel would be a step forward. Being able to be more inclusive of different culture, different genders, different all these factors that are quite integrated into education in other parts of the world. That would be something quite interesting to try to slowly, to try to integrate into our own parts of the world.
Right. So moving on to the challenges facing teacher education today, most of our participants believe that it's keeping up with educational technology, and B, the lack of access to quality training programs. What is your take on that, Dr. Fumiko?
the challenges. Okay, so actually teachers are very busy already, and then they were asked to change their mindset, and then technology is coming, and there's a resistance, and then different level of familiarity for the technology. But um, I think key is technology is not um, harmful if you incorporate wisely. I think you can reduce so much burden for repetition of that kind of work, um, and then enhance your um, performance, and then you know can utilize it in a positive way. But we need to let them believe it, that demonstrate it to make them believe in it. So in that aspect, we need some effective and efficient strategy, which I've now tried to coordinate.
Right. And Munir, what do you think about the challenges that we have with teacher education nowadays? Do you think there is a lack of access to quality training programs where you work?
Yeah, I think I would agree that the quality of the programs in general is questionable because ultimately it all boils down to the same point that how adaptive are we as teacher educators and how adaptive are our student teachers perhaps towards different scenarios. So, even technology becomes a part of it, or learning technology or being able to cope up with the changes in technology becomes a part of it. So yeah, access to quality is something that needs to be worked around the world.
And Cristina, do you think that maybe there is insufficient funding and resources as well available for teachers to be able to take part in these professional development courses, because not a lot is there that we can do for free?
I
Or
mean,
at a
yes,
limited cost?
yes, most of the teaching qualifications are extremely expensive. We're talking, 1,000 upward. The issue, I mean, they are internationally recognized, but you do have to pay quite a lot. The issue with internationally recognized is that unfortunately they're not localized. So they sometimes might not be as well suited to the local teaching environment as we might want. I mean, how many times, Hareem, have we had candidates going, yeah, that's very interesting. However, it will not work with my classroom of 45 students.
On that actually is something so close to me, what you just said. And yet we feel that, at least I felt that, and I would like everybody's input on that, is that when we say, okay, this is an international teaching program offered by XYZ university abroad, a lot of people are willing to take it. And then when we say, okay, this is a teacher training program by a local institute, and we have this great teacher trainer with immense skills and everything, and they're like, yeah, okay, whatever.
There is,
And yet when they do these international courses, they're like, okay, but that's not true in my local context. So is there some sort of there's this huge gap between expectations and what we want and what we need, and I think people are a bit confused about exactly what they should do and what they want to do. What do you guys think, Munir and Dr. Fumiko? Have you experienced something like that?
As I mentioned earlier, human beings are made to make excuses. So they will make excuses throughout, regardless. So yeah, this is true, right? Yeah, this is true.
And why is it true? Dr. Fumiko, what do you think?
Okay, in Japan, even between the department, faculty, the school, there's a difference. And so even the same university say, oh, it's not applicable here, it's not. then okay, why? What's the reason? How different? Please verbalize it, visualize it. Then let us involve into the discussion. That one is one of the successful case to bring that gap, bring that excuse, but it's very like personal way, not like on the entire program. So still like we are struggling to fill the gap.
And what kind of professional development do you think? And we all understand how important lifelong learning is. So, and how important continuous professional development is. We've talked about it throughout our session in different ways. So how important are these online courses, workshops, and seminars for skill enhancement, and what do you think is versus how do you think the importance of reflective practice and self-assessment, where do you think these two stand? And because, well, self-reflection, I think, is just free, so you don't have to spend a lot to do that. You have to spend time, but yeah. So what do you guys think?
I mean, this is something that all teachers, teacher educators, they deal with, is the imposter syndrome. The fear that you are in a position that you shouldn't be because you're not really qualified, or that you could, oh my God, I don't know as many things as they do. And imposter syndrome is an issue. However, this is an issue that pushes us. And this is something that I was talking about with a colleague not long ago. And, I was, saying that, oh, it's good to have a mentor that helps us with, feeling positive. And my colleague, a very interesting, also teacher educator, magnificent person, I mean, knowledge, incredible, said, well, that's not such a bad thing, this imposter syndrome, because it drives us. It drives us to be better. It drives us to read more. It drives us to be the best teacher or teacher educator we can be. And I think that is definitely something. Yes, we we're thinking, okay, do we do CPD, and it's expensive and it might not be applicable to my environment, to the local teaching environment. But you know what, like you said, self-reflection is for free nowadays. Acquiring knowledge, I mean, the internet is a source of knowledge. Teaching, teacher education is online, it's there. And like you said, it doesn't cost anything. And this fear of not being good enough might actually, unless it turns neurotic, might actually be a good thing, because it pushes us to strive to be the best we can be.
And what's your take on this, Dr. Fumiko?
Yes, so how to set the trigger to start the self-reflection and then more dynamic reflection. So in my program, the younger faculty visit the experienced professors' lecture and then observe it and then do some reflection, a group reflection and self-reflection. In that initiative, not only the younger faculty, but also the experienced professor very pleased and then thankful about the opportunity, because they got, oh, new generation is think like that. Oh, this is what I have never thought. But once I got a question from the younger faculty, it triggered me to think like that. Oh, I want to change this way. So that is like both way. Even the experienced teacher wants to improve. They are motivated to improve, and it showing open up the opportunity to invite the observer to their teaching and learning, trigger him to start reflecting very actively. So that one is one of the case which I see successful. So need to find out how to make it more, happening there.
And lastly, Munir, what's your take on that, and how do you believe we can address the challenges that we have nowadays for teacher education?
Sure. So just building upon what Cristina and Dr. Fumiko just shared, I think one thing that we need to understand and realize is that the the competitive world that we are working in currently has made a lot of us very insecure, and that's where this imposter syndrome is coming from in many of us, right? So the first and the foremost thing I believe that all educational institutions should do is that make their teachers feel safe. Once the teachers feel safe, then only that reflective practice can kick off. Because until and unless you don't think that you can be critical about yourself or critical about others in a safe environment, you cannot reflect freely because you'll have those constraints around you. So if that if that environment is made safe, then that can be done. And secondly, not just senior faculty members and junior faculty members, but like senior teachers or junior teachers, but even junior teachers with junior teachers and senior teachers with senior teachers can often turn out to be critical friends to each other. It's not just that you can learn from someone who is more experienced or who is less experienced, but it is also of the same experience that can teach you a lot. Because as we mentioned earlier, that it's all about experiential learning. So teaching in itself becomes an experiential learning process.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a mental
Yeah.
system, basically, Munir. I completely agree. A mental system where the mentee and the mentor have a like good relationship, and a safe relationship is ideal for learning. And yeah, definitely. Sorry, Ari.
And we often say that we don't get professional development opportunities, but I think the best professional development that teachers can perhaps get is peer learning and peer support.
Right, absolutely. So I would hate to end this discussion here, but every good thing comes to an end. So as we wrap up this inspiring discussion on teacher education, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our incredible panelists, Dr. Fumiko, Cristina, and Munir, for sharing your expertise and passion for transforming the future of education. Today, we've explored the importance of equipping educators with innovative skills, the value of adaptability, classroom, and the role of technology in shaping how teachers engage with students. Our speakers here have reminded us that teacher education isn't just about delivering content. It's about preparing educators to build this inclusive, responsive, and dynamic learning environments that support every student's growth. And the insights shared today highlight the ways we can continue to support teachers on this journey and ultimately creating stronger, more resilient education system. Thank you to everyone who joined us, and we hope you're leaving with valuable ideas and a renewed commitment to advancing teacher education. Remember that this conversation is just the beginning. For more inspiring Ed Talks, stay tuned to our channels and be sure to share your feedback and suggestions with us. If you've missed any part of today's session, the full episode is available on Facebook, and the link is also available on LinkedIn. Don't forget to follow us there. We have we have our training institute called the International House of Professionals, where we are offering teacher education programs, and you can enroll in those teacher education programs. We at the moment have TESOL qualification registrations and admissions open. You can start with that, or please feel free to let us know what you are expecting and what your demand is, and we'll be happy to accommodate you. Thank you so much again, Dr. Fumiko, Cristina, and Munir, for sharing your insights.